And I thought, it's too short. Passage is too short. Who made this division? And I realized I did. So I thought I might have made a mistake, so I checked it out whether I really made a mistake or not. So I tried to put this one to the last Sunday message, and I realized that, wow, last Sunday message is a lot to teach. So if I put this one to the last Sunday message, today's Sunday message will be mentioned very little. And look at the next message, and next message is totally different thing. He just asked his disciple, who do you think I am? So it was right that I made this division. This stands alone. And as I studied this passage, I found a very interesting thing about this passage. This passage is this event is only recorded in the Mark's Gospel. There's no other Gospel mentioned about today's healing. Jesus also, today's event, Jesus healed in 2 steps. Jesus is Son of God, but Jesus healed the blind man once and twice. Jesus healed about 9 blind people. In Mark's Gospel, we saw the mutant blind person. Jesus put his fingers and spat on him and said, "Apata, be open," and he was healed. But never in any case, Jesus used the 2 steps as if his power was lacking. So, today we would like to see why this passage is only recorded in the Mark's Gospel and why Jesus has to use 2 steps for the healing of this blind man. For those of you who are in high school or middle school or college, who really need to study hard, obey your parents, have a good relationship with your friends, what if those things may not work well? That today's passage will be answered for those. My message is 2 parts. Part 1, they begged Jesus to touch him. Part 2, do you see anything? I did it in 2 parts because part 1 is what people did and part 2 is what Jesus did. So part 1, they begged Jesus to touch him. Let's read verse 22 together. Let's go. They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought the blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. Bethsaida is a famous place where Jesus performed many miracles. But it is a notorious place where people did not believe in Jesus. So later Jesus denounced Bethsaida. They are believing despite many miracles. And that place was worse than the place of Sodom and Gomorrah. They here probably refers to Jesus and his disciples. So they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought the blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. Some people. There's a Bethsaida, and we don't know how many blind men was there, but there was a blind man, and some people, we don't know who are some people brought this blind man to Jesus, and they begged Jesus to touch him. They begged Jesus to touch him until Jesus agreed to do so. Some people. Although we don't know who they are, in our term, they must have a job. If you're high school or junior, senior high, in middle school, they need to go to school. They have a job. They have to study. They have many things to do. But somehow, they sacrifice their time and their work and brought this blind man, and it was not the blind man, but these some people begged Jesus to touch him. Obviously, these some people had a great compassion for one blind man. And these some people had faith in Jesus. They obviously believed when Jesus touched this blind man, he would be healed. When I read this part, I was greatly moved by the compassion of some people. Somehow, they mind the business of this one blind man, spend time and energy and money, and they even came and begged Jesus for this blind man. And I see the power of believing community here. These people believe the power of Jesus to heal the blind man as long as Jesus touched him. Did the blind man have faith in Jesus? I feel he did not. If he had faith in Jesus, probably he would beg Jesus to touch him. But it was not the blind man, but some people who brought the blind man, they begged Jesus to touch him. And today's story shows blind man opened his eyes because these some people had compassion on him and brought him in Jesus and begged Jesus to touch him. This shows a powerful example of prayer. We have children. We have children on campus and children at home. They all are physically okay for their sight, but they may not necessarily open their spiritual eyes. They may be spiritually blind. But it does not matter for them to open their spiritual eyes. Either their parents or Bible teachers or some people in a believing community in our church bring them to Jesus and beg Jesus to open their eyes through prayer. This is a powerful example of prayer. And this is the power of believing community. Church is God's invasion of His kingdom into this unbelieving world. Believers are so privileged to bring people to Jesus and beg Jesus to touch them, to open their spiritual eyes. And the Lord will listen to their prayers. And the Lord will open their spiritual eyes. The power of believing community. Power of our church members who believe in Jesus. Part 2. Do you see anything? Let's read verses 23 through 26 for response to the parable first. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes was opened, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Now, when these people begged Jesus to touch him, Jesus agreed to do so. But Jesus didn't do it right away at that spot. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. He probably did a similar thing in the previous, the mute and blind man. Why did he so? Well, one possibility is Jesus did not want to draw people's attention through healing. But personally, I believe Jesus' healing is very personal. That was more of my understanding. In Mark chapter 1 or 2, around there, so many people gathered at the house where Jesus stayed to get healed. So Jesus healed many people until late at night. Early the next morning, Jesus got up, left the house, and went to a solitary place and prayed. And Peter and his disciples got so upset when they found Jesus praying in a solitary place and said to him, "What are you doing here? People are waiting. So many people are waiting to be healed." And Jesus said, "Let us go to other towns because that is why I have come." Why didn't Jesus heal all the people who came to the house where he stayed in one shot? For example, Jesus could have prayed this way: "Father, I pray for all people who are here who came to be healed by me. Father, heal them." Can't he pray like that? Of course, if he chose to, he could have prayed like that. And I'm sure the Father would have listened to his prayer, and all people would have been healed at that night in 1 second. And Jesus did not need to stay up late at night. And Jesus did not need to leave the people who have been waiting for them to be healed. But he did not do that. If you look at the passage, Jesus healed one by one. It was personal healing. Think about if you are healing, if you have been healed. Many of us have been healed by Jesus many times. Jesus' healing is very personal. But first of all, he's the only person who knows our healing part. And he heals us very personally, without exposing our shame to others, in a very personal and intimate way. When Jesus had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking around." He's talking about people and trees, although he was a blind man. So in my opinion, he was not born blind. Somehow he was able to see people and trees, but something happened, and then now he was blind. No one is blind among here. We have lived this world with our open eyes. Think about it if you become blind now. The misery of the blind man who was born okay and became blind later times would be more miserable, more severe than born blind man. Born blind man did not know what it is to live with open eyes. But this man knew what it is to live with open eyes. Now he's a blind man. And I thought about what would happen to me if I become blind now. I realized I cannot exercise even if I want to exercise. Sad. Probably would be big trouble to exercise. Such a simple job. You cannot do it. So I was very thankful that I was not blind. I was sick for 2 days this week, and I'm very thankful now because I'm not sick today. Seriously. Let's read verse 25 once more. Let's go. Once more, Jesus put his hand on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. So, only after once more Jesus put his eyes on the man's eyes, his eyes were opened. So I guess his eyes were maybe opened half. His sight was restored. His sight was restored maybe half, and now fully restored, and he saw everything clearly. And Jesus sent home, don't even go into the village. The same reason that he did not want to draw people based on his will. So, why did Jesus have to use 2 steps to heal this man? Why is this only place among 4 Gospels mentioning Jesus healing of a blind man? They are related together. So let's think about why Jesus used the 2 steps to open this man's blind eyes. Was it because Jesus' power to heal this man lacking? Was it because this man's faith lacking? Why Jesus had to go through 2 steps to heal this blind man? Can anyone try? Oh, Sarah Larson.
I think the first time it was because the people who brought him had begged Jesus, but when he healed him, it was only happening. But then the second time, which is confirmed, like you see again, it wasn't clear. I think at that point, the man had to have his own faith in Jesus in order for him to be fully healed, not just because his friends wanted him.
Sure. That makes sense too. Sarah said at first he was brought by some people, so he did not have personal faith in Jesus. But when Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" he said, "I saw people. They look like trees walking around." He began to have personal faith, and Jesus was able to heal them completely. That's one possible answer. Oh, okay, Isaiah.
Maybe overcoming the human nature. So Christ is all powerful, just a woman maybe some human nature to overcome.
I see. Isaiah think that it was the moment of Jesus' human nature, I guess, which is serenity. In human nature, in body of human being, Jesus was serenity. That's not like a correct interpretation. I don't know, but this is my opinion. Jesus did this to teach the character of spiritual being. Jesus did this to reveal the nature of opening of spiritual eyes, especially spiritual eyes of all people, starting from his disciples. Do you remember last Sunday message? The title of last Sunday message, do you know what it is? Do you still not understand? Jesus warned his disciples against the yeast of the Pharisees and the Herod. And Jesus' disciples were talking about bread. The yeast of the Pharisees was honoring human traditions rather than the commands of God. The yeast of the Herod was hearing the word of God, not obeying. The Herod was delighted to hear the message through John the Baptist, but he did not obey the word of God, and he beheaded John the Baptist. The yeast of the Pharisees and Herod. So when Jesus warned about yeast of the Pharisees and Herod, Jesus' disciples talk about bread. And Jesus asked 7 straight questions Do you not understand? Do you not remember? I'm so dull, blah, blah, blah. You still not understand. Jesus' disciples was with Jesus when Jesus fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. They were there with Jesus when Jesus fed 4,000 people with several breads and fish. And they even delivered the bread and fish to the crowds with their own hands. And Jesus was with them, and they worried about bread. Even after experiencing Jesus' miraculous power to produce such an amount of bread and fish, Jesus said, don't you remember? Don't you understand? Do you still not understand? They were completely blind spiritually. Even after experiencing all these miracles at first hand. And Jesus would reveal himself, who he is, from next Sunday message, especially his death and resurrection. And his disciples would follow him by denying themselves and taking their cross and following. And this passage is right here, right before Jesus was asking his disciples, who do you think I am? That is the measure of their spiritual blindness. So I personally believe this passage was given to reveal the character, the nature of opening spiritual eyes of his disciples. That is gradual opening of spiritual. Gradual. Jesus mentioned his death and resurrection in life of the disciples 3 times from next Sunday. And 3 times he had to correct their wrong visions and understanding of Jesus. So his disciples gradually opened their spiritual eyes, and eventually they became martyrs for Christ. Opening of our spiritual eyes is gradual about who Jesus is. And our commitment, according to the revelation of who Jesus is, could be gradual as well. The word once more greatly encourages us because Jesus is God once more. Once more means again. God of again and again. God of once more, once more. We have all made New Year's resolutions and prayer topics with the key verses. I'm enjoying to pray for these booklets, hopefully once a day. And I see all our children like junior high and senior high and college. One of the common prayer topics for them is to do well in school study. I understand. Because that was my major wish when I was junior high, senior high, and college. Do well in school study. It's only 19 days in the new year. Have you been successful in our school study well? Have you been successful in our job well? Have you been successful in our prayer topics? Wow. What would be your answer? I know your answer. Our answer is what? No. I'm one of them. Why do you think God spoke to me once more? I want to pray every day 2 hours, and I want to pray booklet every day once. But I couldn't do that. This week especially sick, but that's why I was greatly encouraged once more. You failed, I failed. Of course, from time to time we are successful. We could study well, we could do a good job. But other times we failed to study well in school, became lazy and waste time. But Jesus is God. Jesus, who is God once more, helps us again and again. Once more, if you are still blind, He will do once more. And our spiritual eyes will be opened gradually. And our commitment to Jesus will increase probably gradually. If you couldn't do well in your school study, how do you cope with that? Forget about yesterday. Try once more. Because Jesus is God once more. Forget about your failure. Take courage instead of being discouraged and frustrated, and try once more. That's our shout. Once more. 1, 2, 3. Once more. Forget about the past. Let's say 1, 2, 3. Forget about the past. Once more.
Once more.
Sorry, I wasn't specific. Let's try once more after 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Once more. If you couldn't do well school study this morning, try once more. You could not obey your parents well this morning, try once more. Instead of being discouraged and grumpy and rebel more. Sometimes our failure makes us fail all the more because of our despair. School study or making friends. That is how God spoke to me through once more. It makes sense now, right? That's why this part is right. This part of the Mark's Gospel. That's why I personally believe it reveals the nature of Jesus opening our spiritual eyes. So to be on, why this part of the gospel is only recorded in the Mark's Gospel? What does it mean to just heal the blind man in 2 stages? We also learn the powerful effect of the believing community. You have children, spiritual children, physical children. Don't demand them to have faith in God. Don't force them. You pray. One of the reasons I pray for all of our children is because I fail to pray even for my children every day as a parent. So, I wanted to do that. I was very happy to enjoy the prayer book. That's why I asked some people to send the prayer topics. Somehow they forgot to send. Anyhow, this is my hope. At the end of the year, I try to pray as much as I can. And also you pray for your own children as much as you can. At the end of the day, we may get together and say, God answered our prayers. And we can rejoice together. According to the John's Gospel, to receiving the answer of our prayers is complete joy. I want to enjoy the complete joy together with you for your children and for our children. For the opening of their spiritual eyes to know who Jesus is and commit their lives to Jesus Christ. One word once more. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for us in Jesus is our Lord and Savior. Thank you for blessing us to know that Jesus keep trying to open our spiritual eyes, our spiritual opening on our eyes is encouraging. Remember our children, whether it's good study, obedience to their parents, and good friendship. And so we may pray for them to open their spiritual eyes with a great compassion and joint prayers. I thank you. I pray in Jesus' name.